Hey, what's going on, folks? It's Mike here, and welcome back to my SDL3 programming series with the D programming language. In this episode, we're going to be doing something that took me a long time to learn, but once I finally understood how compilers, linkers, and all these sorts of things worked, I was able to do it. I was able to create my own binding to a C library in a different programming language. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. So let me go ahead and explain and give some of the motivation for why we might want to do this. Now, again, if you watch the previous video here, which is on our SDL3 D programming list here, I've also got one for C++ that you can search if you want other videos, but again, we're in the D programming language today. I basically showed you and talked about what the SDL3 library is. If we go to the SDL homepage here, we can find out a little bit about it. The important parts being that SDL is written in C. It'll work natively with other languages like C++, and it has bindings available. And we can go ahead and see some of these bindings here. Bind BC SDL, that's the main one we're going to be using in this series. It's just pretty well put together, pretty well maintained, so I've liked using it. I use it for teaching. But again, if you're like me, you always want to know how these things work. You want to be able to build stuff from scratch. So again, we're going to be learning how did folks make bind BC or other derivatives. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here. Now, a few prerequisites. Hopefully, again, you watched the video here on setting up SDL. You can go ahead and test that it's installed by doing something like this with pkg config, or you can again search in your user local library. If you're on Linux, we should be able to find lib. Let's see, SDL. What's it going to be called here? Something like that. I'd have to, I guess we have to sudo for it in my udo. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. But somewhere here, there it is. Lib SDL3. Make sure you have that library installed and linked to so that we can actually link to it. In Linux, the overall instructions are going to be relatively simple, and then on Mac and Windows, they might be a little bit different as far as how you're linking to things on the command line. But again, anyways, feel free to ask in the comments there. Now, the main thing that I want to just recap with you is previously we used dub to set up our program. Okay, so with dub here, I can create this SDL window. It'll pop up for 3 seconds and then shut down. That basically is a good test to see that SDL is installed. Now, how we created that is we, again, had that dependency with this library here, bind bc-sdl, a great library, great dub package. And we basically had two source files. We had our app with the main SDL stuff, and then I created this SDL abstraction because I like to sort of have all the setup code and these sorts of things placed in there. So again, what was in app looks something like this, just a simple like SDL code. And then in our SDL abstraction, let's go ahead and show that here. Basically, the most important thing is this function call here that loads up all the functions here from the SDL library so that we can then call them in our D code successfully. Okay, and then we have the bind BC dependency here and the loader and some of these other things here. And then there's some error checking for the library, and then our basic setup code for SDL, initializing SDL and shutting it down. Okay, so that's a little bit of a recap of what we did previously. So what I'm going to do here, let me go ahead and switch to my other windows here, is I've basically just given us one file here. Okay, so this is all we're working with. If you want to follow along at this point, just create an app.d file here. And that's all we have. If I show you the whole code here, this is our SDL program here. Okay, initialize the flags, initialize SDL. You can do some error reporting if you want. Create a window. Delay that window for 3 seconds, destroy the window to clean up, and then shut down all of our SDL subsystems. Okay, so that's it. That's going to be our test today. So how does this work if I just try to compile this? Okay, I can use something like rdmd here. I get all these errors. It says undefined identifier, SDL init flags. Okay, so we don't know where this function is coming from. We could try to link it in. So for instance, let's see if that helps. So I can use -L in D to start my linker flags, and then -L again, a little bit weird here. SDL3, that's the library. That doesn't help us though, right? These are compiler errors. It doesn't know where these functions are. Okay, so again, let's go ahead and do a little bit of exploration here from the D programming language website here. It can be useful to look at the command line reference here for the compiler. Let's see if we can find that -L flag here for linking. I can see some examples of it. So if you're used to compiling things on C, this is the same. Like -L, uppercase L, will look for or add paths. although it's preceded by this other -l here. So that's why there's a double -ls. That's just a D thing, I guess. The other thing that you can learn is if you do want to use dub, D flags is what you're passing to the compiler. So that was just something that also took me a while to find. But anyways, here it is. And here is the actual command line reference thing here. So -l. If you want to pass in a library here, it is just -l. So that's the flag here. Let me see if that -l is somewhere here. There's a bunch of other good stuff in here. But I think that's just in general passing to the compiler. -lib is for like, I think creating libraries and that kind of stuff. So anyways, let's go ahead and just kind of start this process. So where do I begin here? Okay, I want to create my own binding here. Let me make this look just a little bit nicer. So let's just call this SDL window with manual binding, no dub here. Let's just call it that, no dub packages. Okay, so that's what our window will be called here. How do I get started here? Well, again, it said SDL didn't know what SDL init flags was. Okay, so we need to create this somewhere, right? So what if I just created SDL init flags like this? I don't know, and I just make up something for it. Is it an enum? Is it a alias? What exactly should this be? Well, a few helpful resources here. I'm going to just do it and kind of show you. Things like enums are good to know about. Let me actually go to the article here in the language specification, language reference, and then interfacing to C. This has a lot of the good information here. Again, D is designed to fit comfortably within the C compiler for its target system. So if you want to call C functions, I mean, we're going to see this, extern C. So SDL is a C library, so we want all of our functions to sort of be extern C, meaning they won't get mangled in a different way. There's extern C++, extern Objective-C, extern D to get the mangling, but we want this to sort of name the functions the same way as in SDL. So basically what I need to provide is the prototypes, and then what I'll do here is then link in the implementation, which exists. That's the thing that we compiled in the previous video, or if you already have SDL3 installed from your package manager, that exists there, okay? So that's the idea here, that we're basically going to be writing these extern C functions here. Now for a few other things, let me see if I scroll down here, like types that we'll have to match, things like uint to unsigned integers, okay? So we'll be doing that. There's a few other little things here, like we're going to use, maybe it's just best to look at some examples here. So let's go ahead and go to SDL. Let's go to the wiki, which will be very helpful for us. I can do the index, and let's just kind of start from the top here. And I'll move this over to the side here. So SDL init flags, to my recollection, that is the first error that we have here. So we'll just kind of do these one at a time here. And let's see if we can find SDL init flags. There it is. Okay, so what is SDL init flags? Okay, that's an unsigned integer. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do here is just create an alias for SDL init flags, and I'm just going to set it equal to unsigned integer. Now again, SDL, all the types are nicely defined for how many bits they are, right? We have the width of the type uint32, and D uint is always unsigned integer 4 bytes, okay, or 32 bits. Okay, so let's go ahead and just move along from there. And let's see here. Let's keep our error window a little bit larger here so we can just kind of scroll through these. Now the next thing, undefined identifier SDL init video. Okay, so there we are. Now one thing that I'm going to do here just to make this a little bit easy is I'm going to wrap an extern C all of these things. I mean, the alias doesn't really need to be wrapped in there, but I'm just going to wrap it in there for now. If folks have a better idea or if these should go somewhere else, let me know. But this is going to be for my SDL3 manual binding here. Okay, so how do we handle the next error, which was this init video here? Let me again go ahead and scroll up here. Init video and init events here. So basically all these definitions here, right, these are the values that are defined. So I'm just going to copy these. Since I'm only using 2, again, I'm just going to give you the minimum wrapper here. We're not using camera or sensor. We are using events. I don't need the haptic stuff. I don't need the joystick. Let's see here. I don't need audio right now. But again, if you need these later, you can define them. Let's delete the comments. Oops. Yeah, delete until the end of the line. There we are. Okay. So again, in D we don't have define, so we need to set this up here. I'm going to use enum, which kind of serves that same purpose, right? It gives us a type, and then the enum will at compile time, right? It's not going to store anything if that's how it's being used here. I'm just going to set it equal to this value here. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that again. All right, and I think I'll need some semicolons here. And let's go ahead and see if we got rid of error. The error is occurring at line 7 here. Okay, let's go ahead and scroll up here. Yep, looks like it. Now I have an undefined identifier now, SDL init, but you can see we've taken care of these first few problems here, right? And they're matching exactly what the C code is, right? The same integers from SDL, so we can go ahead and carry on here. So let's go ahead and do SDL init. Again, I'm just changing in the search bar to speed things up here. And we need this guy here, this prototype. Again, I'm putting this one definitely needs to be an extern C because it is a C function that we're calling here. And this is the function signature, right? We got the arguments, the type, and then the return type. We have bool already in D. So let's see if that gets rid of the error at line 17. Okay, so let's go ahead and scroll up here. Okay, so now line 26 here, error undefined identifier SDL window. Okay, so let's scroll down here just a little bit here. Let's just make this readable. Let me keep everything on the screen for you. There we are. Here, we don't even need the main to see that here. Okay, so window, that's missing here. Now it's complaining about the type here. Now, if I need the actual sort of fields here, things get a little bit trickier. Let me go ahead and just bring up SDL window. I'm going to just show you the shortcut here. Okay, so this is just a type def here because this must be, I suppose in SDL, maybe SDL window is always used as a pointer. Meaning if we go into video, let's see if we can find the code here and find, I'll make this bigger in a second here, SDL window. Okay, so that's window ID. Let's see if I can find it here. It's probably used all over the place here. So sometimes you can kind of search like struct SDL window. Okay, so here's just the type district. I guess that's it here. So all we really need to do, and since I'm using it as a pointer, I just need to forward that type. I basically just need to say that this thing exists here, SDL window, okay? And then hopefully it'll find, whatever the symbol is. I mean, window here is just used as a pointer, so I'm forwarding the 8 byte address here in my 64-bit system, so that should be okay. Okay, so that's okay. Now undefined identifier SDL create window. Let's go ahead and paste that in here, SDL create window. I'm just going to copy this function signature. We'll take a look at it here. Do something like this here. Const char star title. I might need to be a little bit careful with in D. You sometimes wrap the const around the specific type here. I'm just gonna leave it as is and see if it's okay. But let's see. Will it get rid of this error though? Let's save it. Let's compile it. Yes. Okay. So now we're down to okay. We don't know what window flags are, so let's go ahead and do the same thing here. What are window flags? Okay, so window flags, looks like I might have to add some of these, but again, it's just another type def here. So I'm going to use kind of the same trick that we did before. I'm going to say, okay, I could either make this in enum, or probably just want to make this I'm just going to alias this here. So SDL window flags is going to be an ND, a 64-bit type for an unsigned integer is just ulong here. Yeah, let's just do ulong. All right, and that should do the trick there. That should keep it happy. And let's go ahead and compile again. Okay, and then as suspected, we're missing SDL window always on top. That is another define here. Let's see if you saw it before I did. There it is. So we're gonna just go ahead and copy this line here. It looks like it has some more meat to it. Let's go ahead and see what that expands out to. Paste that here. Okay, it's a define. Okay, SDL uint. I'd probably have to see exactly what this macro is doing, but it looks like it's just making sure that this C type is exactly this, and it's not like shrinking it or something. I don't exactly know here. Let's go ahead and just make it in enum. And then D is, let's see here. I mean, we could alias it if we wanted, but we might want to actually specify the enum type but D should make sure that it's at least this large. It might get a little bit tricky if, I guess if enum decides, let's just do it here. Let's see. If I just make this a unsigned long, I think that's the right thing there. What is it? Please use L. Let's see. UL. I forget what the abbreviation. Okay, I think that's right. Yeah, I just want to make sure that this is 64 bits, since it seemed like in SDL was pretty insistent on that here. SDL uint 64. Okay. Well, we'll see if we have any problems with that. Because enum might have said, hey, we can actually fit this in a smaller type or something. I don't know. All right, a few more functions here. SDL delay. Let's go ahead and see how we can work with that here. Just copy SDL delay. Let's paste that in here. This should be a simple one. Okay. But again, it's a nice little example of what we need to do here. So again, there's no uint 32 type. Again, let's just compile that. I mean, you could, if you want, you could create an alias for this, since you're probably going to be doing this like all over the place. You know, if you go all in with this binding, I have historically just changed these to like uint, something like that. But again, as mentioned, the other thing that you could do is say, hey, there's a lot of those, alias uint 32 equals uint. Let's actually just do that as a demonstration. Let's see if that took care of things. Yep, took care of things. Okay, so again, we might want to do that. Because if you're doing a more, again, mechanical translation of the SDL library, that's probably just going to save you time. Let's just put that at the top here. And you could kind of start organizing this types in SDL. Maybe all of your aliases in it go up there or something. All right, but anyways, SDL destroy window. That looks like it's going to be another easy one. Just takes in a window. Let's go ahead and pop that in here. Get rid of the keyword demonstration or the comment. That doesn't really help us. That should just work. And then SDL quit. Last one, it looks like, unless anything else pops up. But I know SDL quit is near the bottom of our program. Let's just copy that in here. I think we're going to get a small error. You'll see it in a second. But because D doesn't have void parameter types, but we can just get rid of that here. All right, and that should compile and build it. Okay, so does it do the same thing though? Let's go ahead and see here. I mean, the goal of this program is to basically just, let's get this all in one line for you. There we go. So if I compile this, it'll output app as our program. If I run it, it should pop up on the top of our screen because we have this window always on top, hopefully correctly defined, and disappear after 3 seconds. Okay, and it's got whatever is in my video memory, right? We're not drawing any graphics, and it works. Looks like SDL was initialized, no errors, and it shut down. So that's it. This is our manual binding here. So again, you could do this as needed, right, for SDL or other libraries to sort of create this binding. It can get a little bit trickier. There are, you know, large structs sometimes like SDL event and so on, where you end up just having lots of enums. So the general case is I would just use the bind bc.sdl. That's what I'm going to be using for most of the series, but I thought it would be nice to at least talk about the manual binding and how to do that, because that was something that, again, always seemed like magic to me, but that's something to consider. Now, the other thing that's kind of nice about going through this SDL manual binding process is it teaches you a little bit about software development, meaning that you know, the question you might have is, it'll say, well, Mike, what if we what if this changes, right? What if SDL all of a sudden starts to decide, hey, everything's going to have a uint 64 as their parameters, right, for SDL delay? Well, I mean, that means you're going to have to change these, you know, signatures here. Otherwise, you're probably going to get some weird behavior, right? Or what if they went the opposite direction and said, well, that's actually just going to be a uint 16, so you'd have to change everything to u short and d. That is kind of a problem, so it teaches you a little bit about the API design of what happens. So the good thing is, and why I like SDL, is it's ABI stable, meaning, you know, the SDL quit function isn't really going to go away, or, you know, they can change things, but usually the way they change things is they'll introduce something new, like a new function, a brand new function, or, I mean, that's kind of the purpose of these enums here, right? Which teaches you a little bit of something of, you know, these are an easy way to add functionality by just adding another enum and then another branch within the function that uses that enum for things like SDL window always on top and so on. So anyways, it just teaches you a little bit about API development, or at least makes you think about that question of what if I was going to change this, right? If I wanted to rename SDL free, destroy window to SDL free window, right? And I think everything in SDL now is SDL destroy, and then the actual thing that you want to destroy. But anyway, those are things that come up in API design. So anyways, let me just scroll through the whole code so you can have a snapshot of it. This one, again, I will post the code for this in the description just in case you are curious, and then you can just kind of try from there. I'm not always going to post the code because you should type it out and try things out. But maybe this will be useful. Maybe you can improve it. Feel free to share that. But anyways, we have our binding here, extern C being particularly important for the calling convention of these functions, or how these symbols will get mangled and so on. And then we just have basically the same program otherwise that we wrote in the first video. But now you know how to do this. If you totally don't want to use any sort of binding, you want to write your own, or maybe you find a C library that is otherwise not available in D. So again, in D, there are a bunch of packages here. There are 2,500 at least listed here. And usually popular libraries make it in here, and you can kind of search around for them. But this is how some of those bindings are created, right? Some were created just by scratch. Others, usually end up with some automated tool to deal with the situation of what if there are updates. So anyways, that's just, this is sort of the mechanical way to do it, okay? And this will also work too for other things if you're just writing general C code compiled in a library and then want to make your own little binding available. The last thing that I'll mention is sometimes folks will just take this binding here, right? And if you want to distribute it, instead of having it at your main here, let's just call it like SDL binding. DI is like a D interface file, so sometimes folks will use that. And then I can just import SDL binding. Actually, I'm just going to do it like this here. Let's see if it picks it up here. Might need to be a .d file. I can't remember. Let's see here. Yeah, that still works here. Okay, so it'll still bring in the D interface file. It should still work as expected here. You're getting a little bit of my video recorder there, Op Studio. Okay, so anyways, that's just another recommendation. And then you can just kind of add to this one file and have everything there. Now, SDL will be pretty large. I think I have a binding that I'm working on that's like several thousand lines of code here, but that's okay. Then you have it in one file. It's easy to just import, and you don't really have to deal with anything. All right, folks, so that's it. And as always, feel free to watch for this playlist as I add things. Otherwise, I will have my other SDL series and so on, of course, msha.io. Let's find that here. Here's some other SDL3 stuff. And you can join the community and feel free to ask questions there with other community members. So thanks again for your time and attention. Hopefully this was helpful, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one.